Am I the jerk for refusing to go to my parents' house when they're not there? My dad is leaving town in a week, or possibly a week and a half. He will be out of town for about 2 months due to work. My parents' custody order states that if my mom or dad is not around for more than 4 hours, I, a 15-year-old male, go to the other parent. If one of them is going out of town without me, they need to give the other the option to keep me for that period of time. So with my dad going, I will be staying with my mom. My dad's wife is not happy about this, and neither is my dad. He is married but not to my mom. He has 3 children with his wife who are under 6 years old. They want me to go at least on weekends to see his wife and their children, but they argued to keep the custody arrangement at 50-50. I do not even want to be there when my dad is there. I am not close to my dad, and I really dislike his wife. I do not respect her or accept her into my family. The reasons I feel this way are that she was my dad's affair partner. She tried to get me to call her mom in another language because she does not like me calling her by her first name, so I just say Ms. last name. She wanted the respect of a parent name. They talk badly about my mom despite having the affair. They accuse my mom of turning me against them despite my dad taking me to his wife's house when they were having the affair, and I saw them together. My dad and his wife tried to move out of state with me so we could be a family. I had to speak to the judge when that happened, and it was a difficult experience. So I am only dealing with the custody issues until I turn 17, because then my voice will be listened to by a judge, and not before then. We have checked with lawyers already. My dad told me to think of the children and how they will miss me. I told him it will help them get used to me not being around because when I turn 17, I will not be anymore. He told me my feelings will change in 2 years and to embrace my time with them. His wife said I am a part of their family and should want to spend time with my other mom and my only siblings. I rolled my eyes at her. She called me disrespectful and told me to stop being so stubborn. I said no. I told her she cannot make me go to the house when dad is not around, and they know they cannot get a court to force it, so they should accept that they will not see me for 2 months. My dad and his wife both think I am in the wrong for it, and they keep saying how much they dislike my decision. Am I the asshole? You did nothing wrong here. They can't force you, so you are off the hook. Just ignore them and block them for the time he's gone. Relax and enjoy your time at your mom's uninterrupted. Am I the jerk for only staying at my parents' place while visiting my hometown? I, a 30-year-old female, have been married to my partner, a 33-year-old male, for over 4 years. My family and I have always been social people with social etiquettes like calling and checking up on people regularly, informing others about changes in plans, thanking for gifts received, and staying in touch with friends and family. My partner's family is the opposite. In these 4 years, his parents have never called me once. It is always me who calls them. I'm at a point where this relationship seems very one-sided to me. My parents are also the ones who call them to stay in touch. My in-laws don't ever call my parents either. Things are going as they were for 4 years, but I recently got pregnant and delivered a healthy baby. My in-laws didn't check up on me once during the entire pregnancy, not even once. In my culture, it is common for mothers-in-law to stay with us to care for the daughters-in-law postpartum, along with the baby. My mother-in-law didn't bother planning to come, and when my mother was coordinating her own visit, my mother-in-law talked extremely rudely by not giving adequate answers. I stopped calling eventually as the relationship felt one-sided, and I felt only I was maintaining it. To top it off, my mother-in-law complained about me not calling her enough, even though she never calls me, to my mother and aunt when they had visited them to invite them to a wedding in our family. It resulted in my mother crying and feeling extremely hurt. Now that I have delivered, she wants me to send pictures of the baby to her while she makes no effort to maintain the relationship with me. My partner and I plan to visit our hometown soon, and we were discussing the number of days we'll need to stay at his place together since his parents haven't spent time with the baby. He plans to stay there for a month, and I for 5 months. I told him I'll stay at my in-laws' place while he's there, but I don't feel like staying there for the next 4 months, as I am hurt. They behave badly with my mother and want nothing to do with me, making me feel like they don't care for me at all. My partner says I should stay for some days, and that my in-laws wouldn't like it otherwise. Upon insisting that I won't, he thinks I'm being inconsiderate. Am I? Firmly, you did nothing wrong here. It's really confusing why anyone would expect you to spend 4 months with your in-laws instead of your own parents, especially when you just had a child. Staying with your family and inviting them to visit if they want seems like a great compromise. This way, you can be more comfortable with your support system in place. Am I the jerk for not offering support to my dad's spouse and laughing at them when they asked for it? My dad's wife found out 6 weeks ago that he has been cheating on her for years. They have 3 children together, and she had no idea he was cheating. His wife, who I will call Anne for this post, was my dad's affair partner when he was married to my mom. I was around 8 years old when we found out. My dad brought Anne over to pick up his stuff because he wanted to move in with her. Neither of them cared that I was there. A few weeks later, my mom died in a car accident, and I moved in with my dad and Anne. However, I did not view either of them in a positive light. I still do not, and I am 17 years old now. Anne and I butted heads a lot over the years. She would talk about deserving more respect, and I told her she was just the lady my dad cheated on my mom with, and she would never be more than that in my eyes. I told her I did not respect her as a person or as a supposed family member. My dad tried to get me to see him more positively at first, but when he realized I would ask the big questions like why he did that to my mom and me, he stopped trying. I always assumed he found a new mistress, but did not have proof until a year and a half ago when I saw him with another woman. I said nothing and carried on waiting for the day Anne found out. There were times I wanted to rub it in her face so badly, but I did not. I was laughing at her behind her back, and I will admit that. When Anne found out, she kicked my dad out and I moved out with him. This was seen as a controversial choice because Anne wanted me to stay. Since everything went down, Anne has wanted me to visit her and my dad's children. I am not close to the children and do not really care about having a relationship with them. Last week, my dad brought me by Anne's place to pick up more of his and my stuff. Anne's family was there, and Anne and her family were scolding me for choosing my dad over Anne and saying Anne deserved my support. They said they could not believe I picked my dad's side over hers. I said I picked neither side, but Anne means nothing to me, so I am not going to do anything for her. Anne's mom told me Anne was a victim. I told them she cheated with a married man and should not be shocked that he would do the same to her because she is nothing special. They kept engaging with me, and my dad was taking his time. Anne decided to talk to me one-on-one and asked me to stand by her, support her, and help her give the kids a good life and show we're still a family. I laughed in her face. Anne started to cry. Her family asked her about it, and she told them I laughed. They called me disgusting and cruel and said I should be ashamed of treating someone in my family that way. Anne's sister sent me a few direct messages before I locked down my social media, saying I should apologize to Anne and be there for her now to make up for my reaction to her. She told me to be a better man and not some pathetic child who blames the woman for stuff. Am I the asshole? In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. It's crazy how affair partners act so shocked that a cheater cheats. Her family needs to wake up and realize that you were always going to stick with your biological relative, although he is also the TA for cheating. It's like touching a hot stove and being shocked and upset when it burns you. Am I the jerk for refusing to attend family events on my spouse's side unless they stand up for themselves? My wife, a 35-year-old female, and I, a 36-year-old male, have been married for 4 years and have 2 children, aged 3 and 1. My wife's parents divorced when she was a teenager, and both her mother and father have since remarried. There is a lot of competition between her mother, father, and stepmother in terms of family time. Everything has to be equal. If we spend an afternoon with her mother, then we have to do the same thing with her father and stepmother. Mom and stepmom especially put a lot of pressure on my wife and guilt trip her about it. My wife has trouble standing up for herself and saying no. Before we had kids, this wasn't as big of a deal. If we had to attend 2 to 3 different Thanksgiving or Christmas gatherings, it wasn't the end of the world. Now, with 2 young children, it's exhausting and I absolutely hate it. My wife and I have had numerous talks about her setting boundaries because I am at the end of my rope with it. The bickering and pressure are constant, and the need to keep everything equal essentially determines our entire non-work schedule. We had to attend 2 separate Easter events this spring because we went to one with her mother, so we had to do one with her father and stepmother. After that, I told my wife I was done with this. I told her that she needs to stand up to her parents and start setting boundaries and saying no. I told her I won't allow her parents to continue to dictate how we live our lives. I told her if she is incapable of doing this, then I will absolutely step in and tell them. She begged me not to do that because she doesn't want to ruffle feathers and promised she would do better. That didn't happen. We ended up having to run around to 3 separate places on Memorial Weekend because of this same issue. After we got home from the last stop, I told my wife I am done with this and will now pick and choose which things I want to go to. I won't stop her from going, and I will stay home with one or both kids if she doesn't want to take them, but I'm done. This past weekend, she was talking to her mother and the 4th of July came up. My father-in-law had already invited us to his house for a pool day, and my wife told her mother about it. So of course we have to do something with them that weekend as well. When my wife told me about this, I told her that I will not be attending both and I will choose if I want to attend either. My wife must have vented to her mother about this because a couple of days later, I got a call from my wife's stepfather, the only sane person in this really. He told me that he completely agrees with me and that he's talked with his wife numerous times about not pressuring my wife, but she doesn't listen either. He suggested that whenever his wife pressures my wife into keeping things equal, he and I go golfing together instead. When I told my wife about this idea, she called me a jerk and told me I'm being unsupportive. I think you are not in the wrong here. Alternating holidays sounds like a reasonable solution to avoid the constant running around. It's important to establish your own family traditions and take some holidays just for yourselves. It's not about being unsupportive. It's about finding a balance that works for your immediate family. Am I the jerk for canceling my family vacation due to conflict from over 10 years ago? My parents, who are in their 60s, invited me, who is in my mid-20s, and a friend to join their international vacation this fall. They booked the resort in January or February after confirming in December that I might be interested, but they said I didn't have to say yes. They let me and my sibling bring 1 guest each. My parents are paying for the lodging, and I would get a private room with my friend. I confirmed my friend and my attendance in February because I didn't know that I would end up going low contact with my parents. I canceled our RSVP with my friend's consent in May because I worried it would be bad for my health, especially after what would be an 8+ month period of barely tolerating talking to my mother on the phone for 5 minutes each month. My parents are very hurt and upset. When politely asked for an explanation, I told them that I don't think it's in my best interest to see them for a while, including them coming to visit me. My father used to be very abusive when my sibling and I were growing up, and I've been diagnosed with PTSD due to those experiences. I didn't elaborate, and they haven't inquired any further. Our family history is the elephant in the room that we never talk about despite my clumsy attempts. There have been no efforts on their part to identify or resolve any issues, though that could be because they're trying to give me space. I'm not trying to punish my parents. I'm sure they thought of this as a fun experience that we never could have dreamt of affording when I was growing up. Part of me feels guilty because my father has made some efforts over the years to be better, and I know my parents had only good intentions with this trip. I wonder if my cancellation is like demanding that they be better, only to then shred their gift and efforts while they watch. In theory, I could have endured the stress leading up to the trip, and probably had some amount of fun at the resort while avoiding rocking the boat. Am I the asshole for changing my mind in our RSVP because I'm still, to some extent, stuck in the past? You are not in the wrong here. It's pretty bad to cancel on someone because you specifically don't want to spend time with them. But if your dad's past behavior and your mom's complicity justify it, then sometimes it's worth it to be rude. Your feelings about not hurting them, even though they hurt you, are perfectly normal too. It might be better to take baby steps in repairing your relationship with them before jumping into a long vacation where you can't get away. Am I the jerk? Roommate gave key to partner without asking? Hello, I am a 24-year-old male and have an ongoing issue with a roommate of mine, who is also a 24-year-old male and a family friend. My roommate has a girlfriend who is a 30-year-old female of 6 to 7 months. Within the last month, she has started to be at the house daily. Prior to that, my roommate asked if I was okay with her coming over 3 to 4 days a week. I said that is fine, and I have no issues with how it's been. Then it escalated very quickly. He then gave her a key to the house without asking, and his explanation was, "I'm in my room, so he figured I wouldn't care. I stay in my room while they are in common areas out of respect for their privacy," which I told him. The situation in his eyes is that she gets off work and comes to the house 2 hours before he arrives due to a 20-minute drive from where she lives, and that it just makes sense for her to have the key so they can hang out. She will be at the house for 2 to 3 hours before he is here. She brings a bag, washes clothes, showers here, eats here, etc. In his words, he wants to hang out with her, and that's why she has the key so she doesn't have to drive home, then come here. I work from home and work in the garage or my office. I have a dog as well, which is more irrelevant but comes into play as at times she will sit outside until he comes home, and I am uncomfortable with sitting out there with my dog while she sits on the deck and does not talk. She is very antisocial, his words not mine, and never talks besides very basic greetings despite my trying to get her to open up some. I wanted to address this in person, but I have not had a time where he has been alone in a month, and I did not want to embarrass her with the conversation. So I texted him, while apologizing for it being over text, that I am not okay with anyone who doesn't live here having a key, and that it makes me uncomfortable. I said it feels as if she lives here now and that it was never discussed. I told him I am open to the idea, but we need to talk about it first. His reply was trying to rationalize not asking me before doing it, and then that was it. Today we will be speaking in person about the situation. I feel I already know the answer, but would like a general consensus on this subject, especially considering it's a family friend and an argument would cause issues. Would I be the asshole to firmly say I am not okay with her having a key unless we agree she moves in and starts contributing to things like the rent and utilities? Thank you. Thank you all for the responses. You've confirmed what I believe to be right, but wanted to know prior to dropping the hammer. Lyle die away. I will be staying firm on my stance and putting this to bed. I expect a reaction, but we'll see. Thanks for the support. Ian Voorhees. She's already living there at least part-time, doing her laundry and using the utilities without contributing. This likely goes against the conditions of the lease, which usually forbids overnight guests past a certain number of nights. It's time to get that key back and make it less comfortable for her to stay. In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here, but action needs to be taken before it becomes a bigger issue. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.